I'll tell you a story. I was sitting in my office about 3 weeks ago, and these lobbyists come through constantly to mine the Speaker's office, and the governor's too, for that matter. And a guy comes in from something called Corrections Corporation of America. It's publicly traded, by the way, on the New York Stock Exchange. If any of you want to raise some money for your education, I suggest you buy the stock. It's a growth company. And we, the state of Vermont, has so many prisoners that we can't keep them all here, so we ship them to the Corrections Corporation of America. And he came in and he said, hey, we have a great plan for you. We're going to actually dedicate a whole unit that we have in Kentucky to Vermont. I said, really? Wow, that's something. I said, how are you going to do that? We only have about 250 down there now. How many does it sleep? He said, oh, it sleeps 700. I said, well, how can you do that? He said, well, it was a corrections facility for women. We are in a problem because the male guards were conducting inappropriate behavior with women inmates. So we're going to shut it down and make it a Vermont prison. I said, is the governor excited about that? He said, yeah. I said, why? How can you do that? He said, well, we know you're going to grow into it. That's where we are as a state. We got Wall Street coming to us, just lining up our beds. We're going to have our own little unit down there. What do we know about the biggest area of our growth in our budget? And what do we know about the people we're locking up? The biggest number of nonviolent offenders of any state in the country. This is what we know. Number one, 97% of them have substance abuse issues. Number two, 96% of them had difficulty or still cannot read. Now that should tell us something. So if we could move 200 of those people, just 200, back into community-based programs, as Susan mentioned, for substance abuse, remedial reading, life skills, mental health skills, that would give us $10 million that we could dedicate to your education and to those community-based programs. So that is one of the first actions that I will take as governor of Vermont, is taking the risk, bending the curve, putting the community-based programs in place, identifying the folks that we should move out and move them out. And I'll close with this story. I went to an AA meeting here in Burlington, right down the street, with one of my relatives recently, and I bet in this room there's plenty of you who also have family members that struggle with substance abuse. And I've never been to an AA meeting. I go in there, and it's a meeting where 3 people tell their story. 2 of the 3, on the same day that I was sitting there with Susan trying to cut a couple $100,000 from the state budget, got up and said, listen, I've been clean for 2 years. I am coming to AA every day. I have a job. I'm sending support back to the parent of my children. And I'm about to go serve 2 years in prison for nonviolent offenses that I conducted when I was a terrible addict and I needed to steal to support my habit. Now, how smart was it, and is it, that we were watching $200,000 right there over the next 2 years that Susan and I had been trying to cut that day, sitting right in front of me in an AA meeting, being functioning members of our society?